You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com.
Hey guys, it's Abdul for the good folks over at Leon Tailoring, 809 North Delaware, downtown Indianapolis. You've been checking the weather lately. It's been getting a little bit cooler and a little bit wetter, so stay nice and dry without burning a hole in your pocket with the good folks over at Leon Tailoring. They got a wide selection of getting your fall wardrobe up to date, and of course some nice coats too to keep you nice and dry from this kind of weird weather we've been having as of late. So if the weather's got you down, Leon Tailoring, they can get you back up and get you up and looking good. So swing on by Leon Tailoring, 809 North Delaware, downtown Indianapolis. Well, we are continuing our conversation with our political friends from across the state of Indiana, trying to get a feel for what things are looking like as we're about 30 days out from midterm election day. And joining us on the news line, my good friend Jeremiah Morrell. Jeremiah is out in Henry County in the eastern part of the state. He does the podcast Boss Hog of Liberty that you can find on the We Are Libertarians network, and also a candidate for the Henry County Council out there as well. Jeremiah, thank you very much for joining us. Good to have you here with us.
Great to be with you today, Abdul.
So, my friend, how are things looking out in the eastern portion of Indiana where you are?
Seeing lots and lots of activity from local candidates. In the county council races, as I'm going door to door, I'm finding trails of other candidates that have been there as well. It doesn't seem like the national issues are really translating out here in the areas I'm in. A lot of how do we agree to get along and use land together is a big factor. In Henry County, the number one issue that people ask about no matter what race you're running for is wind and wind ordinances. In Delaware County and Muncie area, just to our north, we're seeing a lot of candidates having discussions about hog operations and commercial feeding and trying to figure out how we all feed each other. And how we live out here together, and this mixture between development and agriculture, and that's really been the theme. It's a lot of local issues with people in the eastern and rural parts of the state.
No, it's funny because you would think that if you just turned on the television, all anybody was talking about was the Kavanaugh hearings.
Yeah, as I got to this last weekend, myself and my team, we got to about 600 doors going door to door in my race. I had one person that cared about Trump and wanted to know how I felt about Mike Braun as a person. But the Supreme Court didn't come up. It's really been the local stuff. I don't know that the big major parties are getting in touch with people on the ground out here with the door to door, even the materials that these guys have. You don't see the Braun or Donnelly stuff. It's mostly just the local candidates that are getting their things out. Very few yard signs for those campaigns.
And it's funny because I was going to ask you about that because obviously there's talk about quote unquote the blue wave, that Democrats are energetic, enthusiastic. They're fired up. You got Republicans saying, no, we're organized. We've got the superior ground game. But it looks like, from my friend, from your perspective, at least out in your neck of the woods, if Republicans and Democrats are doing something, it ain't necessarily a whole lot in your part of the state.
Not particularly. Early on in the primary season, you would see the Republicans, their candidates came through and visited, but now at this point, it's hard to find a Republican candidate. The Republican incumbent candidate for county commissioner in Delaware County isn't showing up at forums. You're seeing that, Greg Pence isn't doing the debates locally here. A lot of folks are trying to play keep away. You see it from the Secretary of State level all the way down to, the county council and county commissioners races where people just aren't participating in forums. I don't know if it's a culture from the top down on the Trump side or what it is, but we're starting to see candidates playing keep away with voters, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of reaction it gets.
Now, do you think that just might be because people assume that where you are, which is a 6th congressional district where Greg Pence is running, where Mike Pence used to be and Luke Messer is just so Republican that it's not worth expending a whole lot of time and energy and effort because not a whole lot's going to change?
It's a high risk. It's highly risky. As a candidate, I'm, no matter what my situation is, I would be out there talking to voters and talk, participating in the local forums and doing the kinds of things that Jim Baird is doing in Rokita's district. But in this case, they've made the calculated decision that they're just not going to participate in debates. Even Mike Pence, when I was in high school, Mike Pence was running for Congress, and I remember him debating in 2000 or 2002 with Bob Rock and Dick Frazier at Ball State when he was applying for the job in the House. It's really disappointing to see how we've got a potential congressman that's just never going to have a debate. It's surreal, and we're seeing it across from the statewide side to all the way, like I said, down to the county commissioner and county council levels in some of these races.
Our guest today is our good friend Jeremiah Morrell. Jeremiah does a podcast, Boss Hog for Liberty, that you can hear on the We Are Libertarians network. Also a candidate for the Henry County Council, and by the way, a Libertarian as well. Like I said, we'd be talking this week to our Republican, Democrat, and Libertarian friends, so it's good to have Jeremiah on to find out what's going on out in East Central Indiana. Jeremiah, kind of sort of circling back to the to the Senate race. One of the big things that Democrats have talked about was sort of running candidates everywhere, and at the end of the day, that will help Joe Donnelly. Out in your neck of the woods, are you guys seeing more Democrats on the ballot than you usually are? I know Jenny Lake is running for Congress out there, and she's gotten a little bit of a boost from David Letterman.
She has. She's actually on a tour right now. Look, I think she's making it to every county in the district within 19 days. So both she and Tom Furkenoff have been doing what they can to drive vote totals up. And I've been impressed with her. I know Joe Donnelly came through town at some point last month and visited one of the senior centers. So he's had some contact with the locals, but we are seeing 3 or 4 different races where there are Democrat lines on the ballot. In these rural communities, 85-90% of the offices are controlled by the Republicans, and you had a massive purge in the primary over here with 3 of the incumbents losing on that side. It's a different culture. It's a different culture, but the Democrats are trying where they think they have opportunities in some of these. Newcastle, Muncie, and Anderson in the city limits, there's still a strong UAW and Democrat base that they can get some votes out of.
Now, let me ask you this, because one of the races I'm actually paying attention to up in your neck of the woods is the state Senate race between Democratic Senate Minority Leader Tim Lannon and a gentleman by the name of Zakiya Lee, African-American attorney who is running as a Republican. He's got yard signs or billboards all over the place. He's been sort of named like sort of that 18 to watch an 18 by one of the national Republican groups. Are you hearing anything in that race in particular? Because I know there was some scuttlebutt for a while that Tim Lannon was actually really nervous because for the first time he's actually had sort of a real opponent.
He's given it the old college try. I'm very interested to see how the results in that race turn out. I think the way that the legislature has drawn the districts up, that one is the heart of Muncie and the heart of Anderson. There's a seat that was held by Senator Doug Eckerty that is also an open seat that I think is probably going to be closer and has. I think that one's a little bit more in doubt than than Mr. Lannon's seat. But if they lose that one, it's going to be a big, big day for the Republicans. Or
as I jokingly say, it'd be amazing that Democrats won everywhere except for the one place where they should have won, which should be that one when it comes to political irony. Jeremiah, as we get ready to wrap up our conversation here, what would you say in your part of the state is the mood? How is the electorate feeling right now? Because a lot of times you hear the people just sort of sick and tired and fed up with politics. For example, when a lot of folks watched the Kavanaugh hearings last week, there's sort of a pox on both your houses.
That's absolutely the case. I think anybody that's had any sort of incumbency has felt the sting of the voters in this area. There's a big distrust, and anybody that takes an oath of office next year is going to have work to do to repair and to earn the trust of the electorate. There's a lot of bruises and a lot of fights over local issues and then the national level, and we just need a time of healing around here. I'm hoping the voters pick me in November, and I have a chance to be a part of that myself.
How are Libertarians doing out in that neck of the woods? Because I know there's always been sort of that back and forth strategy of, do you run people everywhere, or do you just run people in certain places to try to run up vote totals? How are Libertarians being welcomed this time around?
I think we're having really strong conversations. There's a handful of races where we're very active. In my race, we probably will spend more money than the Republican or Democrat candidates because we've raised the money and we've taken a very, very professional approach to our campaign. I think that the Libertarians have the opportunity to really win some races this year. And if not, even if you don't vote for the Libertarian, I think that we've helped shape the conversation and try to hold the Republican and Democrat parties to their talking points. Everybody sounds a little bit more libertarian on Election Day, but when it comes to January and you start governing, you start to slip away from that.
Final question for you, my friend. Biggest misconception folks here in the 465 bubble have about folks out in the eastern portion of the state of Indiana?
I think the people out here, we love to work, live, and play like everyone else. It's an easy drive to get down to Indianapolis from here. I talk to my buddy Chris Spangle all the time about it. I said I'm 45 minutes from downtown Indianapolis, but I can go to a breakfast spot here, and I know the owner and half the staff by name. It's really a great spot for a bedroom community or to build a business right out here in the hinterlands between Dayton and Indy.
Well, depending on where you are in Indianapolis, also takes you 45 minutes to get downtown. So there you go, my friend. Our guest today has been Jeremiah Morrell. Jeremiah, Libertarian, does the podcast Boss Hog of Liberty that you can find on the We Are Libertarians podcast network, and also a candidate for the Henry County Council out in that neck of the woods. Jeremiah, my friend, thank you very much for being with us. Nothing but the best luck in your races, and we appreciate you taking time to talk to us.
Thank you very much, Abdul.